Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're here with career strategist Jamila Brown, and we're talking about how to define your value as a human, as a professional, and how to communicate that confidently. So Jamila, it's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Patricia. Absolute pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into the conversation because we were just talking a few minutes ago and it sounds like there's a lot to cover. So tell me a little bit about knowing your value and why you just told me something really interesting. You just said it's actually not as important to know your value as a professional as it is to first know your value as a human.
Yeah, I think there's this fallacy that we buy into, and I don't quite know where it started. Probably need to do some research on it. But for some reason, we believe that our professional and personal lives are somehow separate, which also leads to burnout because you have this
Mm.
expectation that there's no overlap. When in fact, I don't know how anybody can wake up, get in the car, go to work, and leave their body at home, leave their mind at home. You
Hmm.
take that with you every day. So that's the first thing, is understanding that they're not separate, and it's a fallacy. And so in order to figure out your value, your perceived value, which you have a perceived value, whether you know it or not, people are treating you a certain way personally and professionally based upon what you're exuding from a confidence level and what you believe about yourself. And so
Mm.
in order to figure out that value, there's absolutely overlap. And if you want to show up as your absolute best self, and I know it's becoming cliche to say authentic, but you're the only person with your DNA, with your fingerprint. So, in order for you to show up in the world with the unique gifts that only you possess to do the work that you're destined to do, you have to be in touch with who you are personally and be able to be confident in bringing that to the workplace. So, that's the first step, is really digging into who you are as a person and who you were created to be.
And that's so powerful. I have conversations, and I'm sure you do too, over and over again about career clarity and career direction and building your brand, right? And we always want to start in the middle. Like that's always my thing. We always want to start in the middle. And in order to figure out what your direction is, to figure out what some people say my purpose or my
Right.
calling, right? In order to figure those pieces out, we have to look at how we're made, who we are naturally in our natural
Right.
environment. And you're so right. If we can't recognize that, we're always going to be, what did Dr. Seuss say? We're always going to be a fish climbing a tree, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Always be a fish climbing a tree. Who knew that Dr. Seuss had life lessons such as that, right?
Who knew? Who knew? But listen, you also have this really cool concept of a formula for value. Do you
Yeah.
want to share that with us?
Yeah, so when I think about value, I'm going to say this for your audience in advance, I like to use math concepts as a part of how I teach and how I coach. However, my basic math is horrible. So I want to start by saying it, like, don't hold me accountable for adding or basic addition.
The
But
idea is the concept, right? That's what you're I like
that's
the idea of
it's just
math.
the idea of math, but the actual function and actually doing the math, it's a lot of it has escaped me here at this point in life. But I came up with this formula, this framework after myself. I've been in the workplace, corporate America, close to 20 years, couple decades in operations and retail at high levels for some of the biggest companies in the world. And I've dealt with so many people, I've led so many people, I've worked with so many people, and I grew tremendously when I was in corporate America. But what I always continue, the reoccurring theme, right, was this value piece that end up spending a lot of time talking about. And so coming up with a formula that made sense to everyone, that they could actually just understand, take away, and examine and be self-aware was key. So value is the end of the equation. For everybody that's watching, listening, value's the end of the equation. It's on the other side of the equal sign, right? So I'll run it to you really quickly and then I'll break it down. So confidence times and open parentheses. So this is a complex equation for the audience. If you haven't done complex equations, open parentheses, you have belief minus fear, close parentheses, equals value raised to the infinite power. So I'll repeat it. Confidence times open parentheses, belief minus fear, close parentheses, equals value to the infinite power. So the formula starts with confidence, right? So how do you get confidence? Number one, you've got to believe who you are, whose you are and what you're here to do. And then, of course, because we're human, you've got to subtract fear. Because the minute like some of you may be listening right now and you got the goosebumps or something that you've been told, something that's been laid on your heart, something, a vision you had just crept up in your mind and you're thinking about it and it scared you because, wow, can I really do that? Should I really be doing that? Am I capable of it? All of that self-talk, those narratives are immediately popping in your head because you're human. Just know you're not alone, because even as I'm saying it, I had 3 thoughts hit my head that I was just like, whew, right? So belief minus the fear. And at that point, that's how you're able to get the confidence, which then leads to you being able to express your value as a person, whether that's personally, whether that's in relationship, whether that's in the workplace and beyond. You're
Mm.
now able to express that value because you know who you are, you know what you're placed to do here, and you know how you're going to go do it. You've subtracted the fear. Now you have confidence. Here comes the value. It's almost inevitable that that equation works out for you, because if it's worked out correctly on the left side, as the teachers used to teach us, right? If the left side is worked out properly, it'll automatically equal what you need to on the right side.
Mm. This is good. I'm writing down my math theory and finding my proofs and all the things. So
Yes.
here's something that I find really interesting, right? You've got that confidence piece, the belief, the fear. It all makes perfect sense, right? But I wonder, sometimes we don't quite know where to start. Sometimes
Yeah.
we don't realize that we have a fear of something, or we don't realize what our belief is. We all have beliefs,
Right.
right? But in your opinion, how do we get started? How do we identify what beliefs we actually have to work with?
Great question. And it's really where I attempt to start all of my work. Most people want to start in the middle, as you mentioned. Some people want to start at the end, frankly. And that output, it needs an input. And what I found, and this is personal first, I figured this out for myself personally first. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, she's just talking and coaching this. But no, I figured this out for myself personally. My value, what I believed about myself and what I knew to be true, was buried in my childhood. It was buried in my childhood. I was born with it. I was easily attracted to it. And thankfully, my mother specifically was the first one to cultivate it. And believe it or not, it was through aluminum cans. For those, listening, depending upon the age group, you used to get, and maybe you can't still can, recycle aluminum cans for money.
Mhm.
It's disgusting. Let's be clear. You got to clean them and all this other stuff. But my mom allowed me to recycle the cans to go get and take me to the recycle yard to exchange them for money. She supported this, even though she had probably a tinge of OCD. She supported me because I really wanted to do it. The idea wasn't about the aluminum, wasn't about getting the money. It was the fact that I could do something that would generate money. So I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. And thankfully, she didn't step on that. But
Mm.
what did end up stepping on it was school, right? At the time, I grew up in the Cosby Show era, the different world era. It was you go be a doctor, you go be a lawyer. That started stepping on what my future was to hold. My parents didn't necessarily do it, but society and what a good job and get married, have 2.5 kids and a dog, white picket fence, that storyline stepped on that entrepreneurial spirit. And so I went to work for someone because that's what you were supposed to do when you graduated from college. And so I challenge everyone to dig into that first moment you were inspired, that, that again, another cliche people say is, hey, if you do what you love, you'll never work another day in your life. Finding that thing that you would do for free, or that you did for free at a very young age, or that just felt so natural you were gifted with,
Mm.
is oftentimes the source. Now, I'm no longer recycling aluminum cans for cash. Let's be clear. Right?
You have
Not doing that.
graduated.
I have graduated, but
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily about the aluminum cans, but it took a lot of self-discovery, a lot of self-work, a lot of journaling to get to that point.
Mhm.
And I would like to consider myself a bit of a serial entrepreneur as a result. So finding that thing wherever it started for you, and most often it's in our childhood.
I love that. So there's those pieces of us. And I think Strengths Quest as an assessment also alludes to that, right? Like, what is the thing you were teased for when you were a child? What's that thing that
That's good.
comes out of you regardless where you are, what you do, right? If you're an
Yeah.
engineer and they believe that you're the most creative engineer, there's something to that. And it doesn't mean that you have to go into a different route. It just means this is the value that you bring, right? So you can bring creativity to a space that maybe doesn't ordinarily have creativity. And just by the way, engineers are insanely creative in a way I could never be creative. But you if you feel that, oh, I really like my career, but I might be in the wrong space because this is my strength over here. Sometimes having that offset where it's not what's typical in your industry or your role is actually your UVP, your value proposition. But here's something that I find interesting in your conversation, right? There is this thing from your childhood that is this golden gem, right? But
Mhm.
sometimes we're at the very, very beginning. Like maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I remember what I did as a kid, but I don't know what belief I have now. You
Mhm.
mentioned that there was a point at which you no longer were kind of operating in that. Can you walk us a
Mhm.
little bit through like what was it for you and how you help other people kind of push through that, I guess, adult filter to find that
Yeah.
thing again?
Yeah, I think the thing that happens to us because we're human and we learn best when we're in pain, believe it or not, is pain. I think that's the greatest indicator, whether that's physical, mental, whatever the AL at the end of the word is. I believe that's where you know and you start. So for me, I was experiencing burnout before burnout was a thing, before it even was used as a word publicly or, just mainstream.
Yeah.
And I was experiencing burnout. I believe this is in 2017, 2016, 2017. And I did not know that's what it was. But physiologically, my body was not operating how I was accustomed to it operating. The
Mm.
fatigue, right? Like all I had energy to do was actually go work, come home, shower, and get in the bed like at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And while I wasn't like injured, like a broken bone pain, I was in physical, mental, and emotional pain from what I was experiencing in the workplace. So being able to say, I don't like identifying, I don't feel good about this, or I'm having a reaction, like an allergic reaction to what I'm doing, whatever it is. And this could be a relationship too. As I sit here and say this could be in a relationship that you're experiencing some form of pain between you and your boss, coworkers, team. Something's not working. If you can stop and be honest with yourself about that and then start to do the work, that's where you'll then start to do the work to go back and find the thing.
Yes.
It's pain though. If the long answer to say pain, if
Mm.
you're experiencing any kind of pain, that's probably the beginning for you.
Yes. Oh, you're so accurate on that, and part of the work that we do starts at that pain point, but it doesn't have to, right? So imagine, you're about to get sick, when you have that little tickle in your throat and you're like, "Uh-oh." You don't just wait till you get sick and then you're like, "Oh, now we're in crisis mode. Now I got to go get all the
Right.
medications and get the Z-Pack and all the things," right?
Right.
But what if you can catch this earlier? And there's something that you can do if you're listening right now and you're like, oh, I feel like low level pain. I don't know if it's time to go to the doctor, right?
Right.
I heard once that behavior reveals belief,
Mm.
right? Behavior reveals belief. And so if you're asking yourself, maybe you're not in deep pain that you have to do something, but you're wondering, why does this keep happening to me? Or maybe you can look at your week and say, okay, there's certain situations that I find myself in that are not ideal, right? And this is the part that I think is really important, but also really difficult. Ask yourself, how did I contribute to me being in this
Hmm.
situation, right? And you'd be surprised. I'll tell you a very quick little anecdote here. So I had a friend. She was really outgoing. She was really extroverted. She has a strong personality. Anyway, so we were friends. I was much, much younger, but I would get mad at her all the time. And one day I yelled at her and I'm like, well, gosh, you treat me like I'm in the backseat of your car. And she's like, you put yourself there. And I remember being like, oh, like,
You
did I?
put yourself there.
How? And then, and we were like we lived together. It was the whole thing. And I remember us breaking it down. And my goodness, that relationship was better than therapy. Like we broke it down. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am putting there are things, I'm not saying it's only me, like we each took
Right.
responsibility,
Right.
but
Right. Right.
each of us has a responsibility to some extent of
Yes.
the places we put ourselves in. And when we look into that, then we can kind of backtrack and see, okay, is there a belief underlying that behavior? Is there an emotion or a feeling underlying that behavior? And do I need to do anything about it?
Oh, that's so good. And the math person in me heard there was something that you can see that's repeating itself, and you're the common denominator.
Oh, you are so good
Right.
with your math.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
at which point, if you're the common denominator, which I'm sure you've shared with individuals coaching them that, you can leave this job and go to next job and go to next job, but you're taking the same luggage with you. So
Yes.
let's stop and address that right now versus continuing to carry that forward, because it's going to, some of the same things are going to come up in the next role. So I love that. And that's the self-awareness and self-accountability, again, personally and professionally, for how did you get here? Because none of us are chained to a company.
Hmm.
Corporate America is not a person, so they can't handcuff you to the role. So you have the ability to not be there, not accept the job offer, not accept the promotion, whatever it may be, not take on the project. You can always say no.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that this is a conversation that we're having because it can feel like a box. It can feel like, oh, but I need to make this amount of money, but I don't want to lose my job. But one
Mhm.
thing I encourage you, if you're listening right now, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel seen and attacked all at the same time, this is what I would tell you. There is a box, but it might be of your own making. And even if it's a box that you're like, well, I do have to make this amount of money and I do need to stay employed. And it is a tough year. There is always, and I mean always, something that you can do, right? I think
Yeah.
is it Marie Forleo that's like everything is figure outable, right?
Yes, yes, love that word.
So if you can't talk to your boss or, start looking for another position, the market's really tough. I know the market's really tough right now. If that's not something for you, then you can upskill. If that's not something for you, then there's always something. So if you can accept that truth, that'll help you take one step forward.
Absolutely. That's so good. And knowing that there's always an option. And I had someone hit me in the LinkedIn DMs. I think this was last week, asking if it was too late to change careers or change industries. And my response, and I know buffered it so it didn't sound flip, but my response in general was, if you're still breathing, there's still time,
Mhm.
right? No different than there's still options. You just have to be courageous enough, that belief minus the fear, to go out there and seek those opportunities out. But I oftentimes find we're uncomfortable with the change, because sometimes that initial symptom of
Mhm.
pain, and or like that heavy pain where I got to do all the work to get out of it, is often a hole that we create inside of us. Again, accountability for ourselves. And now that we've got this, it's a badge of honor to feel that way. And seems like an oxymoron that I would feel, mistreated or oppressed in the workplace and don't like my job. My boss is bad. They're not paying me enough. But how many people on a day-to-day basis do you hear talk about those things?
Oh,
We're
all day.
wearing those things. Yeah, all day. We're wearing those things as a badge of honor, and we don't have to. But it's because we don't want to relinquish it, because it's become a part of us.
Oh,
I find it's become a part of us completely.
this is so accurate. There's comfort in familiarity, right? There's comfort in familiarity. And what Jamila is talking about, and what I feel like we are just on the same page on, is it takes courage
Yeah.
to walk in who you are. And you would imagine that, oh, no, it's natural. It should be natural. But because of all the, whether it's hurts or pains or rejection or ghosting, right? Whether it's a long time ago when you were a child and it's just
Mm,
rising up, which these things rise up. Trust me, I've had so many conversations, I've experienced it myself. The things you think you overcame will come back up when you're trying to elevate to the next level. There's like I don't know if it's a reinvention. I don't like calling it a reinvention because I haven't lost
right.
any of the tools from
Correct.
my prior, positions or prior experiences, but you have to sort of uncover another layer of who you are. And that involves addressing the same issues from your past at a deeper level. And to me, it takes a lot of courage. And so, in order to make a career change, I'm finding more and more that because of the landscape, because of how AI is depersonalizing everything and automating everything to where it's you against 100,000 applications from other AI, applicant systems or whatever. Not the tracking system, but now we have literally AI applicant systems that are applying
Correct.
to hundreds of jobs at a time. It takes that much more courage and knowledge of who you are and the ability to communicate it with life, not just I do this, I do this, I do this, but to really bring life into the conversation to stand out with folks that actually get to see you in person in networking and in an interview.
And I always like to tell people, because oftentimes what we talk about is we're going to like go to the source of the pain, right? Or the source of the symptom, or the thing that's got you sitting in our lap right now saying, hey, this is what I want to do. We're going to get to the source of it. So I always like to tell people there's still good news. There's still
Amen.
good news, right? There's still good news, even though a lot of what we're talking about isn't all comfortable and it does make you uncomfortable. There's good news to all of what we're talking about here. And for me, based just in the conversation that we're having, I believe the good news is, one, that familiarity of having to kind of go through something that you previously went through. I think we just have to embrace that that's part of life, and that's how God designed it to be. You're gonna If it was something that was a challenge, it's gonna show up again as a challenge in another form or fashion, and that's okay. But you
Mm.
have experience now, so you can recall that, and have you have history and evidence to recall on that experience. And then I think the second thing is, based upon you wearing all of this stuff as a badge of honor, that's not good for you, that's not healthy, that's not what you want, that doesn't bring you joy, doesn't bring you happiness, is not fulfilling you. You have the opportunity for something else every day. You get to choose. And I would submit to you that it's worth it. It's worth having the courage. So those
Oh,
are
it's
my two good news things for you. So you feel like, okay, I gotta go through all this, Jamila, Patricia. Y'all killing me right now. Y'all reading me, and you didn't put me in this mood. What do I do now? It's worth it. Just, if you don't remember anything else, just know you've got history, you've got evidence to solve the math problem, and
Mhm.
it's worth it.
Absolutely, it's worth it. No matter where you are in the process, no matter how much experience or how little experience, this is a universal concept. And I really appreciate that we've had this conversation and that
Yeah.
we've ended on a good note. But we're almost there. So as
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
finish up, there is a I guess a way that you spoke about, communicating things with confidence, right? There is finding my value, kind of walking in my value. But what are some things that you can suggest to folks to help them communicate their value confidently?
I believe, number one, you've got to write it down, make it plain.
Mm.
And I would venture to say, not even like putting it in your phone. This is actually something that you're going to actually need to write out, like physically write out. Even if you don't fully believe it yet, but it's on your heart, you need to write it down, make it plain. And I don't believe in necessarily fake it till you make it, but you do have to go do it,
Mm,
right? Until you believe it, right? And that's where that
yes.
courage comes into place. So write it, make it plain, even though you got some of the fear, because it doesn't just go away because I gave you a formula. You got some of the fear, but once you write it down, it's very, very difficult. Once it's
Mm,
on paper, it's very difficult to not act. The brain, the way it's wired, and I know we're wrapping up, the way it's wired is it only is going to process what you give it, which is why the ears and the eyes are the gateways. So it's only going to process what you give it, which is why I think it's important to write it down so you're visually seeing it. And then, as a bonus, if you will, as we like to do in the 5 minute career hack, as a bonus, my bonus career hack would be is to speak it as an
mm.
affirmation, present tense, for my English majors out there.
Present. We got math, we got English. We're going to hop into history in a little bit. No,
Right.
this has been so wonderful to provide a little bit of recap. You talked us through a formula for value. You helped us bring in the math, right? You talked us through a formula for value. You talked us to about confidence and belief and fear, right? And the fact that the pain point is probably the place where you want to start. We also talked about behavior revealing belief. We talked about being able to figure out what that thing is from childhood, not just the fear part, but also what were you really good at? What was really
Yeah.
exciting for you? Maybe what did your family tease you about because you were just a natural at it? It just flows out of you. And we talked about how to get confident and then how to make that confidence show up in your communications. You said, write it down and make it plain, right? What that
Yes.
makes me think of is objectifying. If you're able to take something and analyze it outside of yourself, it just becomes so
Mm,
much more easier to communicate, to dissect, to I want to say manipulate, but sort of like to move the pieces to fit the message that you're trying to share. And so we've talked about quite a bit of things. And I know that Jamila has so much more to share with you. In fact, I checked out her career blueprint ebook. It is amazing. So, Jamila,
thank you.
tell us where we can find that and everything else by Jamila.
5minutecareerhack.com. That's the number 5minutecareerhack.com. You can get access to the career blueprint ebook for free. You can download that, as well as you can subscribe to our podcast there. You can request our services on demand or in-person coaching. So all of it's there at the 5minutecareerhack.com. And be sure to follow our YouTube channel and become a subscriber there as well.
And we'll go ahead and provide links to all of 5 Minute Career Hack socials and the blueprint and LinkedIn as well. Thank you, Jamila, so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for allowing me to share with your audience today. I never take that for granted, and I'm truly honored to be able to share with them today.
Absolutely. And if you're listening, thank you so much for sticking around to the very end. Know that we love you. We're praying for you, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.